Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here with the next video from Urge. Today we're going to be talking about the Draconic Options from the new Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
And first things first on here, with this coming out, it's probably most likely going to be part of the rumored Dragonlance book that's going to be coming later in the year with the Draconic subclasses that were done earlier, and now this very heavily ties into that. So before we jump into the major changes that are, they made some adjustments to Dragonborn, added some new ability features and spells related to these Dragonborn, primarily dragon-related things, Draconic Options, whatever. The first thing, if you've not been keeping up with the last few Unearthed Arcana, with the ability scores, you can put 2 in one ability and 1 in another, or 1 in 3 different abilities.
Instead of 2 in this specific thing and 1 in this specific thing, like base Dragonborn is, for example. It's 2 in any stat you'd like, plus 1 in any stat you'd like, or 1 in any 3, obviously.
Right. A new giveaway.
The D&D Beyond Players Bundle.
Tons of character options.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below on the video so you're entered to win a great giveaway coming from us very soon.
So, first thing is the splitting of the Chromatic and Metallic Dragonborn.
Right. So the first thing you'll notice is from, base Dragonborn, it was pick your Draconic ancestry, whatever color that may be, and your breath weapon is based on that, and of course your resilience to that damage type also goes with that as well. There wasn't any really other split besides, picking metallic versus chromatic, and besides just flavor, besides the elemental choice. But with this, they completely changed it all together in that Chromatic Dragonborns get an extra ability with the chromatic warning, which we'll go over in a second, as well as the more uses of the breath weapon. Instead of being one per short rest, it's proficiency bonus uses per day.
Right.
So that will definitely scale up to get more uses per. Where the metallics are getting a buff to their breath weapon, and you get to pick one of 2 buffs for it, but you still only do it once per day. Both weapons are scaling up in damage as well. As currently it goes from 2d6 to 3d6 to 4d6 to 5d6. They're now changing that base die to a D8. So it goes 2d8, 3d8, 4d8, 5d8. They changed the levels around a little bit, where ultimately instead of capping at 16, it does cap at 17, but your damage is also capping higher too. So
right. I think one of the other things too that is slightly different is on the original Dragonborn, there were some that were lines and some that were cones.
Right.
It's a little bit different, where I believe all of the chromatic ones now are lines.
This is also
and
true.
Metallics are cone, but it is... and the saves are a little bit different as well, because they were kind of split depending on what you picked originally. It was like Dex or Con and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Now it's almost entirely Dex. I believe for both of them it is, for Metallic and the Chromatic.
Right.
Outside of the Metallic breath weapon, which is its own thing in and of itself.
Right.
But, yeah, just a slight change on there. And also, instead of 6th, 11th, and 16th,
it's 5, 11, and 17.
Yeah, so it's a little bit earlier and later, but it's a D8s as well instead.
Right.
And then, the lines versus cones for some of them, depending on those changes.
So the other major change you're getting, that new ability for Chromatic Dragonborn, is Chromatic Warding. Starting at 3rd level, as an action, you can channel your Draconic energy to protect yourself for 10 minutes. You become immune to the dragon type associated with your chromatic ancestry. This is a once per long rest usage. So normally you have resistance to chosen type. In the case of this Dragonborn player, he is blue. So resistance to lightning damage all the time. This would allow you to, in my case me, to spend an action to get immunity to all lightning damage for 10 minutes.
Before we forget, the last major big difference is it uses, as part of the attack action, you can replace one of your attacks.
Oh, yes, that's true.
It doesn't use your full action anymore. So if you have extra attack, you can attack.
For you martial classes with extra attack, you paladins, fighters, rangers, monks, you can do an attack and then breath weapon, and that is probably a more significant buff than being able to get extra dice on the damage. I think that's very interesting.
Yes.
For barbarians too. I don't know why they got barbarians out of that, imagine. I mean, because I'm thinking like, especially for monks and barbarians, all that extra movement, you can get to position however you need to position yourself and run around and very, very nice. With the metallic setup, what's different is your breath weapon. You have 2 different buffs you can pick between starting at 3rd level, the metallic breath weapon. Either each creature must succeed a strength saving throw or be pushed 20 feet away from you and be knocked prone. Glorious day. Or they must succeed on a Constitution saving throw and become incapacitated to the start of your next turn. So early on, I think both of those are going to be very, very nice to have access to. So so basically, if you're going metallic, you're going for that big hitter. Knock a bunch of people prone. Again, I think of martial classes. You knock something on your butt with your first attack, and you get advantage on it as everybody else gets to too.
Yeah.
Or just making them skip their turn and incapacitate's also very, very nice.
Yes. Though the metallic breath is only once per day.
Right.
Whereas the regular breath weapon is
for the chromatic ones. Is more uses. So you're trading a bigger effect because of the buff on it for more uses. It's just personal preference.
Yes.
And then they sneak in the thing that was probably the biggest surprise to both of us.
Yes.
When we read this, is it says Gem Dragonborns.
Yes. So there's hope. There's hope that we'll be seeing a lot more Gem Dragon stuff.
Which is really, really neat. They are very fun little dragons. If you have never seen anything with the Gem Dragonborns, very, very cool, very unique. Yes. But what it also does is allows them to bring in the other damage types that aren't represented by regular dragons.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. Because now you get all of the, outside of Sapphire being thunder damage, the 4 least resisted damage types in the game.
Most likely. Acids.
You can argue acids up there with it, but Force, Radiant, Necrotic, and Psychic are 4 of those 5. And if you're a dragon with doing dragon breath, force breath weapon, or psychic breath, that's like,
yeah, it's a little
glorious. And the damage still scales the same way. It is number of use equal to proficiency bonus, but they get a couple of extra abilities that are unique to their own.
Yes.
Psionic Mind lets you telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of you. You don't need to share a language with the creature, but the creature must be able to understand at least one language. Your communication doesn't give the creature the ability to respond to you telepathically. So you can't have a telepathic conversation,
right?
But you can give information telepathically, issue a threat telepathically. Anything you can do crazy. So, I mean, RP-wise and strategic, even in combat, can be very, very good.
Yeah.
And there's no limit to that. It's just a thing you've got access to. Very cool. And also helpful in times where you're running into trying to RP a situation where nobody in your party speaks the language somebody's speaking to you. You can at least tell them something that's like, hey, we don't understand your language. We come in peace.
Nod yes or no.
Just like nod yes, no, play some charades after that. And of course, the other thing which is interesting is Gem Flight. Starting at 3rd level, you can use your bonus action to temporarily summon an array of spectral gems that match your gem ancestry in the shape of wings, lasting for 1 minute. For the duration, you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. Once you use straight, can do so to finish a long rest. So again, once per day, but you're starting at 3rd level, you once a day for a minute, use can fly.
I find it kind of funny that with the last Unearthed Arcana they did with the Folk of the Feywild, they gave flying out left and right, and now they're like, we'll buff the Dragonborn, and then this one can fly for a little bit each day at 3rd level, not at 1st level.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, whatever, is what it is. But getting like a breath weapon of force or psychic, but you also get the damage resistance to that as well.
Yes.
Which is
getting
much harder.
Yeah, because that streak goes 2 ways. They're very rarely resisted, so intelligent enemy casters may have those spells on deck, and you're like, screw you.
Yes. Exactly.
Very fun.
And then we have, next up, an update to the old Kobold.
Yes.
So, with that, you are going to get a couple new abilities. One is Draconic Legacy. You can choose one of the following when you select this race. First option, you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself. Or, one catch-up of your choice from the Sorcerer's spell list. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting modifier for that cantrip. And lastly, you can make unarmed strikes with your tail. When you hit with it, it deals 1d6 plus your strength modifier bludgeoning damage instead of the bludgeoning damage normal for an unarmed strike, which I believe is a d4 on there. And then you also get, as a bonus action, Draconic Roar. You let out a Draconic Roar at enemies within 10 feet of you. Until the end of your next turn, you and your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any of those enemies who could hear your roar. You can use this trait number of times with proficiency bonus, regaining all on a long rest. They've updated it a couple times on here because it was originally, and then they had the different ability where it's like they could cower, I think.
Grovel, cower, and beg as an action.
Yes.
You can cower pathetically to distract nearby foes until the end of your turn. Your allies gain advantage on attack rolls against enemies within 10 feet of you that you can see once per short or long rest. And they changed out the
Draconic Roar.
Right, and also they had the pack tactics as well. You advantage on attack rolls against a creature with at least one of your allies within 5 feet of it, and is it incapacitated?
Right, so they got rid of that. I guess,
Yeah, they kind of combined, swapped out pack tactics and grovel, cower, and beg for the Draconic Roar. The other thing that's in here currently is sunlight sensitivity. That's another negative thing that they have that's been traded out. Well, just got rid of, I guess, or erased from existence. Yes. That's pretty much it for their base one, besides dark vision and everything, and that. That's their entire list. It's sunlight sensitivity, pack tactics, grovel, cower, and beg, and dark vision. That's their abilities they have base race, as they currently constituted anyway.
But that's not all. We also have several feats that are dragon-related as well.
We're nowhere near the end of this video.
So for the feats, we have the first one is Gift of the Chromatic Dragon, granting you the following benefits. As a bonus action, you can touch a simple or martial weapon and fuse it with one of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. For the next minute, the weapon deals an extra 1d4 damage of the chosen type when it hits. Yep. After you use this ability, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. And then, when you take acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage, you can use reaction to give yourself resistance to that instance of damage. You can use reaction number of times equal to proficiency bonus, regain all on a long rest.
So it's a combination of the elemental weapon spell of when you choose the element for the offensive side, and also basically can do absorb elements as a reaction.
So kind of so similar.
A very interesting feat that I very much like the flavor of, and if this becomes official, will be very hard not to take.
Yeah, and I think the thing I like too is it doesn't say anything about having to be a Dragonborn or Kobold to do it. It's just a gift of the Chromatic Dragon.
And you can touch you don't have to give it to yourself either. You can buff somebody else with it. That's the thing I'm thinking. Cleric here be swinging an extra weapon, not the best idea. But if my barbarian friend or my swords bard wants to get in there and cut some stuff up, be like, hey, let's go ahead and give it a little extra damage on the back end. Stuff it's swinging multiple times much better than swinging once.
Then we also have Gift of the Metallic Dragon. Surprise, surprise. You gain the following benefits. You learned Cure Wounds spell. Cast a spell without expending a spell slot. Once you cast it, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast it using spell slots you have. Spellcasting ability is Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. When you cast it, chosen when you choose the feat. And then also you can manifest protective wings that can shield you or others from attacks. When you or another creature you can see within 5 feet is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to manifest spectral wings on your back for a moment. Roll the d4 and grant a bonus to the target's AC equal to the number rolled against the attack roll, potentially causing it to miss. Use the reaction number of times equal to proficiency bonus. Regain all uses on a long rest. So, I think that's just an easy way instead of dipping into another class to get Cure Wounds. You just take a feat and you get Cure Wounds, and if you're already a caster or have spell slots, you can use them for
it's a free extra spell that you know, or if it's something that you already know, like a cleric, a ranger, that you can learn. You don't have to worry about preparing it or learning that spell, and it's a freebie.
Right.
But you can spend your known spells on something else.
Yes.
But yeah, that would also be very cool for if you're, like I said, sorcerer or wizard, you've got spell slots, you don't have access to that spell normally. It's like, I've got it now.
Yep.
You cheater.
Nice way to steal it.
Yeah. It feels like trying to be bard with the whole magical secrets, taking somebody else's spell.
A little bit on there.
It's just the one spell.
And then the last feat on here, we have Gift of the, you guessed it,
Gem Dragon.
You can increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1 to a max of 20. When you take damage from a creature that is within 10 feet, you can use your reaction to emanate telekinetic energy. Creature must succeed a strength saving throw equal to 8 plus your proficiency plus the ability modifier of the score increased by the feat.
Right.
That's a wordy way to say it. So it's going to be intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. One of those. Or take 2d8 force damage and be pushed back 10 feet. You can use this reaction number of times equal to proficiency bonus. Regain all uses on a long rest. So you're basically, for each of these, you're just gaining a variation. Outside, metallic is a little bit different, but with the others, you're kind of getting a little bit of flavor from the original Dragonborn.
Right.
On there. And then we have some spells.
And do we have some spells? Goodness, I'm a huge fan of most of these spells. Fizban's Platinum Shield, which is a 6th level spell, cast time of an action, a range of 60 feet. Challenge, of course, is the must have a platinum plated dragon scale worth at least 500 gold pieces to cast it, which material components is something has become a bigger and bigger challenge. As you get into higher level spell casting, you got to really look at those.
Yeah.
And when you're choosing your spells that you're going to learn and things like, okay, how readily available are these materials?
Right.
So that's something else to keep in mind. But You create a field of silvery light that surrounds a creature of your choice within range. The field sheds dim light out to 5 feet. As a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can move the field to another creature within 60 feet of the field. The creature protected by the field gains the following benefits. Creature has half cover, so +2 AC. Has resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage. If the creature is subjected to effect, it allows it to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage. The creature instead takes no damage as it succeeds, and half on a fail, so evasion.
Yeah.
Is essentially what it is. So you're giving evasion, half cover, and resistance to all the elemental damage types outside of thunder and it's outside of thunder and acid. And acid's on there, so outside just thunder. All the rest elemental damages you get resistance to. So that's a huge fat defensive. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that you are allowed to move it. I think what it helps make this be worthy of a level 6 spell is the fact that you can move it from person to person. So if one of you get a bard that gets surrounded and you pop this on him, then he misty steps or dimension doors out of trouble, you can throw it back over to the paladin, the barbarian, whoever's in the meat of trouble.
Yep.
I think that's what helps make this spell. You feel unique. There's not a lot of spells you can move. That's a buff from person to person as needed. Usually it's like, okay, well, Hunter's Mark you can move once you kill the thing.
Yeah.
But so I really like the flavor on that spell.
Yes. And you have to go with Draconic Transformation, a 7th level transmutation.
Fair.
Casting time, 1 bonus action. It does cost a statuette of a dragon worth at least 500 gold. Though it does say that it doesn't consume it, so that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, both of these say that it doesn't consume it.
You just have to get them originally and
Yep.
you're good. It's just maybe getting them in the first place that might need some questing or something.
Right.
So, concentration for 1 minute. You gain the following benefits until the spell ends. You have blind sight with a range of 30 feet. Within the range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blinded or in darkness. You can also see invisible creatures unless the creature successfully hides from you. You also gain incorporeal wings, giving you a flying speed of 40 feet. And when you cast the spell as a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can exhale a breath of shimmering energy in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a dex saving throw, taking 3d8 force damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful. Bonus action, 30-foot cone.
Yeah.
Even if it's only 3d8, it's just awesome. It's just cool.
And it's force damage again, so a very, very rarely resisted damage type. Even if they succeed the saving throw, they're still going to take half that damage and not going to resist that very much.
And then kind of speed through some of the rest of these. There's
Sure.
one of them that I definitely want to touch on, but there's a 3rd level Flame Stride, concentration for a minute, bonus action, lets you run a little bit faster, 20 feet, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks.
Yeah, there you go.
From the speed as well. And whenever you run next to a creature, they take 1d6 fire damage.
So again,
nice
monks,
speed boost.
barbarians running around like mad.
Flame Stride.
Fire.
And
Very
then
nice.
there's Nether's Mischief, 1 action, concentration.
Love this.
Fill a 20-foot cube with random magic. And it has a little table on here. And you can move the cube around. It's like smell of apple pie fills the air. Bouquet of flowers appears. Just some random stuff. Just
and each of the 4 effects is a different like status condition depending on what the effect is. You can either blind stuff, charm stuff, that kind of thing, or create difficult terrain. Either way, so it's interesting.
Yes, for sure. And then one that I definitely want to make sure I mention on here is Icing Death's Frost, 2nd level evocation. 1 action. Now this is where it gets a little weird. I think there's a typo on here somewhere. It says 15-foot cone. But then it says, in the actual description, cold energy emits from you in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a con save. On a fail, it takes 3d8 cold damage and is covered in ice for 1 minute or until the creature uses its action to break the ice. So here it says 15-foot cone, but then 30-foot cold energy. So it seems like it is just a 15-foot cone. I'm sure they'll clarify that.
Yeah, one way or the other.
They shouldn't, even if it is just thematically 30 feet, but the actual effect is 15 feet, they should clarify that better.
Yes.
On there. While it's covered in ice, its speed is reduced to 0. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage with no additional effects.
Right.
So that is nice on there. And if it wants to break, it's going to take an action to do so. And it's just a level 2 spell, so you can hit multiple things and essentially just lock things in place.
But the damage plus root effect is very, very unique. Besides just making like difficult terrain, it doesn't just freeze the ground. It actually like roots them in place, a la Mage Frost Nova kind of thing.
Right.
Very nice.
And then there's Rauluthim's Psychic Lance, 1 action. Unleash a shimmering lance of psychic power. Alternatively, you can utter the creature's name. If the named target is within range, it gains no benefit from cover or invisibility as the lance homes in on it. So it's one of those things, if you know your enemy and you kind of research them, you can find out what their true name is or whatever, and kind of mark them. Must succeed as intelligence saving throw or take 10d6 psychic damage and be incapacitated.
Ouch.
And it's intelligence save, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there is that. So that one's pretty crazy as well. And then the last one
is some of the summon Draconic Spirit. So essentially, you're going to be summoning a smaller dragon that lasts for an hour, that has its own stat block, and you basically are picking its Draconic ancestry. So it's got a multi-attack, has a breath weapon, and has the shared resistances, of course, associated with it. So you're basically summoning a
Dragonborn.
Yeah,
a dragon.
Yeah, it's like a young, maybe like a wormling, maybe a young dragon, kind of, sort of, somewhere in the middle, I think, based on the amount of damage it does. I think it's probably going to be a wormling, but still, it's
not doing a whole lot of damage.
It tacks on to the whole. A lot of summoning spells have been coming out lately with the summon celestial, summon fae, summon beast, summon everything else. So summon dragon, but it's a Draconic Spirit. So
yes.
The fact that you get to pick the flavor also helps, because if you're fighting something resists cold damage, well, you ain't going to pick a cold white dragon, are you? You're going to pick something else.
But that's it. There's a lot of cool stuff on this one. Really like this Unearthed Arcana, and I think almost all of this, if not all of it, will make it. And
I think it all makes it in. It's just a question of, are they going to tweak anything?
Yeah, I don't really think there's any major things that need tweaking. Like, it's very possible it could come through almost exactly as it is. I could see.
Yeah, outside of the typo with the spell, or clarifying, may not be typo, may just be a poor wording there. Outside of that, I don't think any of the spells are so busted at their level that they need to be changed or modified. I think they're all, very fairly.
10d6 psychic damage is a little crazy to me for a 4th level spell, but
it is one target. So I try to think in okay, what's something comparable that's near that? I mean, the first thing I come up is fireballs at level below. It's 2d6 less damage, but it also hits an area of 20 square foot, 20
radius,
20 foot radius. There we go. I was going to say 20 square foot. That's not right. 20 foot radius circle. So you're always going to hit multiple things. Right. So on average, you're going to be doing close to double, if not triple, the damage, depending on how well you can target it without the effect. So it's, so there's some trade off, and that's always an interesting thing to see how they level spells when they make new ones.
I guess it's probably comparable to Blight. It's pretty close. 8d8, 10d6. It's going to be pretty close. Yeah, average.
It is.
That's going to be all for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so our new videos are coming out. We got lots of stuff planned and coming for you.
So
stay
much
tuned to the channel. There's tons of stuff coming. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching.